If you struggle with toning out brassiness in dark hair, then keep watching because this video is just for you. We're just going to be doing the toning part of this service, so if you want to watch the full application, then I will link the whole video in the description. For dark hair specifically, I love using Igora Vibrance by Schwarzkopf. It does such a good job at eliminating brass, so I wanted to show you guys the color line that I specifically use for dark hair. Here's her hair before we started the service. It's been quite a few months since she's been in. Here's her full application. You can see what she's lifted to. She's probably a natural level 2, 3, and we get her to a nice level 9. 2 years ago, she wanted to go darker for fall, so we're still combating some of that warmth, but luckily the last 2 times that we've lightened her hair, we've actually been able to get pretty light, but it has been a lot of work to be able to lift her this nicely. But you will see as I'm pulling out foils and as I wash her hair that there are some areas that there are still a little bit of some natural or some level 8s that weren't able to lift as good. Normally we get her like to a crisp icy 10 when we tone her hair. She likes it as icy white and cool as possible, so this is a huge improvement from what we were previously able to get her to. But for her, the end result is not as icy white as what we're normally able to do, just because we have that pre-existing color that's on her hair from adding darker before. So you can see around her front hairline that we get her really light, but through the ends she's still kind of like in that level 8. That's because of that dark color that's still sitting in her hair that is staining and we're having a hard time lifting through. When you're toning for ashy or cooler tones, you want to make sure that you do a bonding treatment for the hair. Her hair's been lightened a lot, and you want to make sure that you even out the porosity. That way the hair, especially ashier colors, have a tendency to really grab, and ashy colors already look a little bit darker, so make sure you're doing a bonding treatment. And then I'm also going to use either the Olaplex 3 or this Wella Ultimate Repair is also really good. I highly recommend. And I let this sit for about 10-15 minutes while I'm mixing her toner. I want to show you guys the difference. I'm going to use Paul Mitchell the Demi, and it doesn't even touch the brass, but sometimes I like to get a pre-tone to see where her lightest pieces are and how much warmth is left over. So I'm going to start with my pre-tone of Paul Mitchell the Demi. I pretty much do equal parts. That level 9 hopefully will cancel out some of those warmer areas, but I know it's probably not going to really touch it. But still, I like to start with this to try and stay as light as possible.
Crazy, like some people leave like the craziest hate comments on my YouTube videos.
Oh my gosh, really?
It's insane.
They comment?
Oh
on
yeah.
Yours? Oh my god.
They're like, Christy Jennings, you're not even showing the natural hair. You're not even telling us what the natural hair color is. You're not even showing us what it lifts to. You're lying. You're not showing us what you tone with. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I'm literally showing you all of that stuff.
There will always be those people that just hate on you.
I'm like, dude, like what? I don't know what more information you want from me.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny and I had to share, and actually because of that, I'm gonna like overly show you guys too much in this video, meaning usually I cut out like half the application because I know it can be boring to watch, but I just want you guys to see, like, I don't know why some people think I'm like not being honest with like what is she lifting to, what's their natural color, whatever, what toners am I using. Some people think like I'm not showing you guys some of the steps. I have nothing to lose here. I'm not like there's nothing I'm gonna gain out of being dishonest or whatever. So I'm gonna literally show you and probably like leave in too much of the applications where normally I would cut half of it out. I'm just gonna leave it all in this time. So or you know, for the most part. So here's the Paul Mitchell the Demi. I'm putting this on everywhere to try and pre-tone the hair. I know it's probably not going to really touch the brass. I'm just hoping that it might, with that level 9, just because we're always trying to stay as light as possible, but with that dark undertone and having naturally darker hair and that stain that's in the hair, I'm pretty sure this isn't really going to do anything, which you'll see it practically doesn't. All right, we're going to mix our Igora Vibrance equal parts for these two together. But first, you're going to see her hair towel dried from just using the Paul Mitchell, the Demi, which is right here. If she wanted to be like a warm blonde, that would have been fine for her. That would have been perfect. She definitely would have been like pretty warm, but she would have appeared a lot lighter. So that's not what she wants, though. She wants to be nice and cool. So we're going to go in with that Igora Vibrance formulation, and we're going to do an all-over glossing with this color first. So I feel like that Paul Mitchell the Demi, it took the edge off of the warmth. It definitely is still like a warm blonde. I wouldn't call it brassy anymore, but my client really wants to be as cool as possible, like eliminate as much brassiness, as much warmth as possible with still maintaining as light as we can be. So I would say if you have a client that is okay with being warm and wants to be as bright as possible, that first formulation with just the Paul Mitchell the Demi, that would have been fine. But for clients that want to get rid of like the brassiness, I definitely recommend either just starting with Igora Vibrance or, including the second step. Sometimes a layered toner does I think it looks nice. Like sometimes especially with ashier tones, sometimes you have to layer the colors. That way it gets that extra pigment in there. Again, because her ends are a lot brassier, I'm going to start by putting this on her ends first. So that way it has more time to process. And then we're going to go through and do our partings for the application. You guys need to make sure that you're taking really fine sectioning. There's been times where I will color my own hair and somebody else will be like, oh, let me just put the toner on for you. And I'm like, it's just toner. How can they mess it up? Oh, they can mess it up because they just basically put it all in one glob and then rope the hair together. And then it turns out splotchy. Make sure you're taking the time to take smaller sections. I know at the bottom ends of the hair, I just kind of put it all together, but you'll see I'm going to go through and do smaller sectionings, really comb through the hair. I'm telling you guys, I'm showing you guys all of my application. Normally I would cut half of this out because I feel like it's just repetitive and annoying, but make sure that you're really taking your time to do small sections to really work the toner in there. Some people I see just put it on really quickly, barely work it through the hair, and then it does a bad job. The application isn't very good. It's not saturated enough. So make sure you're really doing heavy saturation. Again, especially for somebody that wants to have a cooler toned hair color. While we're here just doing our application, and it's going to be the same thing, let's talk about lightening dark hair. A lot of my clients will tell me that they can't ever get light enough. They feel like they're always stuck at a caramel tone, and they can never get a nice blonde color. I feel like when clients come in and they have a 1 through 3 natural hair color, stylists feel like they need to grab 30 or 40 volume to get good lift. But what I find happens is 30 and 40 volume have a really strong punch of power at the initial application, but then it dies off a lot faster. Where I use 20 volume, I only use 20 volume when I lift my clients usually. I don't ever, I might have 30 volume if somebody's stuck at a level 8 in the last 5 minutes. I just need to punch past it really quickly. But I feel 20 volume, it's low and slow, which is, that's the trick that you always hear, go low and slow. But it's a more even, consistent lift. So say you are doing a foil and you have like 45 minutes that you're going to be applying the lightener and the foil. Well, probably the first 20 minutes of that application, that bowl of bleach is sitting there, that power is wearing off. So by the time you get to the end of that bowl of bleach, like that lifting power is already halfway gone. So then it slows down, and then the end result is going to be like a slower lift and you're like, why is this not lifting fast? Because the first like 20 minutes or whatever of that application of that bleach has been sitting in a bowl while it's been waiting for you to apply. So by the time you get to that end part of your foil, the lifting power is gone, and then it's going to take forever to finish lightening. So if you just get 20 volume that has a slower lift, but it has a longevity, so you're going to get a better lift over time instead of like, unless you're doing just like a partial foil and it's only going to take you 30 minutes to like get the foils in or whatever, then I could see where like 30 volume could be utilized. But if you're doing like a really heavy foil, then going, with a lowered developer is also going to like protect the hair, but I feel like you're just going to get a good lift because sometimes these clients have to sit for over an hour or 2 hours while they're processing. So like, that's another thing. Like, I will go through, check all of my foils, reapply if I need to. And then my clients will be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm reapplying bleach. And they're like, no one's ever done that. Go through and reapply bleach if you need to. That's what's going to help you get past that level 7-8 is that caramel tones that you guys get stuck at. And check their hair before you reapply a second time. But generally, if they have darker hair, their hair's strong enough to handle a second application. All right, we're going to go through and do a root tap 7, 7-1, and 7-2-4, which is like a cool beige tone. That is one thing with Schwarzkopf Igora Vibrance, honey. Some of their toners, man, they can grab very, very cool. And I'm talking about like blue, green cool if you're not careful. So even though she wants to be really cool, having that 00, that natural 7 in there for about half of my formulation, and then a quarter and a quarter of the cooler tones. But just because somebody wants to be like ashy doesn't mean they want to be like truly gray. So make sure you're balancing your formulation with the ashy tones with some warmth, because those ashy tones can really overpower, especially with the Igora Vibrance. I'm telling you, I have turned people's hair blue before. This is a learning experience, okay? And then pray to the Lord that it turns out and I can pull the color out and everything's fine, or I just retone and it's great and it's fine. But I'm just letting you know, when the first time I used some of these cooler Igora Vibrance tones, I was like, oh my gosh, her hair is literally like a true gray, blue, green tone. So make sure, please, for the love of God, put some warmth in your formulation, because they will tone out some brass, but they also will overtone if you're not careful. For this root shadow application, this like color melt I'm doing, again, we're trying to keep it like as light as possible, even though we know it's going to tone down quite a bit. So I'm not dragging the color down every time I'm applying. I'm going to do a few sections, like especially up here in the crown area. You're going to see that I'm applying the root color and I'm not combing it through like very often, especially up here. Because I want to just blend the roots, but I don't necessarily want to drag and tone down like the actual length of the hair. I do think that dragging the color down in some areas, like this is kind of what's nice about doing the all over lightest tone first, is because you're going to be able to see what warmth is left in the hair. So if you do like a darker, like a root shadow first, and then after that you do the lightest color, what happens if you have some level 8 through like the mid to ends that you need to tone out? Now it's too late. So if you go through and do the lightest color first, see how it's toning, and then when you're doing the root shadow, you can like pinpoint and like grab some of those like brassier tones that aren't toning out from the lighter toner. Then you can drag it through those areas if you need to. So and also before I started putting this application on, I always go through and start at where they part their hair, where their section are at the top of their head. I always put my application on there first because I want that to start toning and go darker, versus like if I do it at the very end of my application, it doesn't sit long enough and that might not like blend the roots as well. So I always do that first, and then I'll go back and start down at the bottom. I also like starting at the bottom too, because if you start at the top and then you're flipping the ends of the hair over, then the ends of the hair could get color transfer on, and then you might have like some splotchiness. If you hear running around, it's because my cats are going crazy. But if you're putting the ends of your hair over the top of the head, then you might get like color transfer, and then the ends could appear darker. So I always like to start at the nape of the neck for my application first, and then work my way up, and then like pull the color down with the brush if I need to. So here's her full application. I let that sit for about 15 minutes. Here's the end. You can see she's lighter. She's, we definitely cooled her down, but she's got like more of a beigey, like blonde color. And I have warmer lights in my salon, so that's why you're seeing her hair looks a little bit warmer. But you're going to see at the very end that her hair actually like has a really nice cool tone to it. So here's the blend underneath. Look at how nice and cool that is. Got rid of, like, I'm telling you, Schwarzkopf Igora Vibrance, it will kill that brass. If you have a client that you're like, I can never get the brass out, I promise you, use Schwarzkopf and that brass, you're going to notice that it's gone. So here's the end result. Look at how nice and pretty that color melt really blends with her hair. And some of those warmer tones is because the light is reflecting. But here you can see how truly cool this color is. Especially, I tried to back out of that light as much as I can. It was dark, so like we didn't have natural lighting. But I hope you guys like this video. I hope you learned something. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.